Why does everybody, news sources, people online, guilters that believe that Brian Kohberger's guilty, innocenters that believe Brian Kohberger's innocent, people that are in between, like, why does everyone believe there is such a cult presence, satanic presence in Idaho, specifically Coeur d'Alene or Rathdrum, which those two towns are two locations where the victims are from one area, one from the other. So I wanted to find out, because I'm already looking into one piece, okay, out there that is wild and adds to the whole drama, mystery, whatever of that area, okay? It adds to the potential violence that could have gone on in that area with people missing and things like that. So what's going on in Idaho in these areas? Well, I'll tell you. In 1881, okay, we had Rathdrum and Coeur d'Alene. In 1881, Rathdrum was a bustling town with a population of 1,000. Now, in that town, they had a railroad station that provided transportation for people for that town and a few other surrounding towns, heading to the mining district in Coeur d'Alene, and it was called Silver Valley. I'm assuming they're mining silver there. To be honest, I didn't go looking into why it's called Silver Valley, because it's not important to this, right? The only thing I did wonder, which I don't have an answer for, but if one of you can answer it, that'd be amazing, is I've seen in my history of research, just based on things that I've liked in the past and read up on, that for whatever reason, major mineral deposits around silver, gold, platinum, things like that, tend to have like a lot of spooky, culty, UFO-y, weird stuff that goes on around it. Is it because there just happens to be additional criminal activity because criminals see an easy win in this and people go missing? Is that something to it? Or does it attract, going full tin hat here, UFOs? Like, you know what I mean? It's interesting. So, Silver Valley. So Rathdrum was actually the main seat. It served as the first seat of Kootenai County in 1908 when Coeur d'Alene replaced it, meaning Coeur d'Alene got bigger, was more bustling, was more on the scene than Rathdrum was. So from 1908 and into the following decades, Rathdrum remained a small town with a population of less than 800 by 1970. So not only was it like staying where it was, it actually had a slight decrease. Well, in the 70s, most people know about the Satanic Panic, right? Mm-hmm. The whole U.S., coast to coast, you guys, had a fear of Satanism. You have Charles Manson, who comes out with like upside down crosses or X's on their forehead after they just got caught murdering a bunch of people in a straight up sex cult. You know what I mean? Like, that blew people's minds, all right? And in an awful way, too. I mean, you're talking about a pregnant woman, you're talking about movie stars, and the things that they did with their blood was just disgusting. Like, worst case situation, worst case scenario, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really bad. Really, really bad.
Yeah, horrible, horrible. And that sparked that Satanic Panic, which
I would be pretty terrified, too, if that was happening around me. But I wouldn't be scared of Satanists. Like,
right,
he was
that's
a cult.
what is
he was
weird.
A cult leader. It had nothing to do with Satan at all.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is so weird. Is you had all these towns, like these two small towns, that are like checking their kids to see if they have pentagrams on them. You know what I mean? What?
Yeah, at the time there was a lot of music coming out too that was, showing imagery of pentagrams and stuff like that.
Yeah, just because they thought it was ridiculous. It was the anti-culture, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
it's my favorite kind.
yeah, many theories exist, though, however, that attempt to explain the origins of the rumors claiming a witch cult existed in Rathdrum. And that's where a lot of this started, you guys, is you have Coeur d'Alene, you have Rathdrum, that there's this idea that there are all these cults. They're literally a witch cult. Now, for those of you that have watched our stream for a while, you guys will have seen... what was it, the governor-elect, or was it, who was it that had that cult commercial where he drives up in his Silverado and like spins out and, you know, stops a Bible from being burned and something else from, and you have all these people
the Constitution
in their hoods around the fire, you know what I mean? And it was just, yeah, and the Constitution, it's really crazy, but I'm assuming that even was helped driven and pushed by a lot of these ideas, you know what I mean? Which is interesting. You have politicians who are continuing this idea. So, where did they come from? And you know what's interesting? They literally had witch hunting parties in this area, like in the 70s. Okay?
What?
In the 70s. Witch hunting parties and cult hunting parties and things like that. Yeah, like, it was taken very far, all right? So, one thing that continued to spark and drive this narrative, and I'm going to hack this. I already know I am. I'm probably just going to put the word up on the screen so you guys even know what I'm talking about. But, so there is a group of people, of religious people, and they're Catholic people. They are called Tridentines, I believe.
Oh, never heard of that.
Tridentines, Tridentines. So, Tridentines residing in the Hidden Valley to the northwest of Rathdrum. Tridentines are members of the Roman Rite Mass of the Catholic Church, also known as the Tridentine Mass, traditional Latin Mass, or traditional rite. Now, Tridentine traditions and characteristics were very unfamiliar to the other conservatives of Rathdrum, such as their requirement that females, women, wear traditional blue nun habits at all times. So a straight up nun's outfit, a blue nun's outfit, all women must wear them at all times.
Sounds like... Oh,
it sounds wild. Like, that sounds like a lot, you know? In an article published in the Idaho Statesman of November 5th, 1982, a 22-year-old Tridentine woman stated, in parentheses, "I know the people did think we were worshiping the devil. We were very much opposed to that kind of thing, and were in fact doing just the opposite." For some of the rumors caused real terror and great concern for their own safety, family, and friends in these towns, okay? Now get this. Here's some of the rumors. So some of the rumors, and these are accounts from the sheriffs, the police department, the law enforcement of the area, when you had people reaching out to law enforcement and saying these things. So the rumors included stories of terrifying rituals and activities carried out by cult members in the areas surrounding Rathdrum and Coeur d'Alene. One of the rumors involved a human chain. Sound familiar? It reminds me of like human centipede, which is disgusting, but
a human chain.
Yeah, formed by dark cloaked figures across highways like Idaho 41 and the US 95. These figures linked themselves in a straight line, attempting to stop cars and capture their next victim, effectively causing all the people in these towns not to drive at night. And it worked. People wouldn't drive at night for fear of the human chain. Weird, right? So, some people claimed that after being hit by a vehicle, the figures disappeared into thin air. So some people claim they saw this human chain of people linking, and they were unwilling to stop because they didn't want to be their next victim. So they just drove through them out of fear, and they would just dissipate and then reconnect.
Sounds like another incident of like mold in the air and the water supply and the bread. you know?
It sounds like the witch trials. Like, this is wild stuff, dude.
Yeah, because the witch trials were people literally like hallucinating and losing their minds.
And here's the thing: this went on in the 60s and 70s, and it's still continuing today.
Oh,
not people claiming this, but everyone has talked about the weird cult stuff in that area. Where do you think it came from? This is why we're talking about it. It's continued to today. People still are talking about cult stuff in that area. So, there's no evidence that the human chain ever existed, obviously. If you were a cult or a witch group of people, why would you ever admit you had a human chain? You know what I mean?
I wouldn't.
You'd keep that under wraps. Yet the story caused many citizens to never drive on the highway, and especially at night. In the article published in the Idaho Statesman, November 5th, 1982, Kootenai County Sheriff F.E. Stalder described his experience as a detective during the scare. He stated that at the height of the crisis, he remembered receiving reports of skinned cats, bonfires out in the woods randomly all over, fires in the middle of the road, people in the middle of the road, the human chain, people around fires on the side of the road, cars appearing and disappearing.
Did you say skinned cats?
Skinned cats, yep.
Like the dog in Moscow?
Yes. So, in the same article, a 57-year-old woman from nearby town of Athol shared how she overheard a conversation at the Kootenai Memorial Hospital involving a police officer who told another woman he hadn't found anything in the road where she claimed to have hit someone with her car. Following that conversation, the Athol woman said that she overheard a man in a wheelchair claim he had been hit by a car while serving on the human chain. This just sounds like crazy gossip, dude.
What the heck?
Yeah. Though tales of human chains and satanic rituals instigated a scare among the citizens of Rathdrum, evidence supporting the claims was never presented. In an article in Spokane Chronicle from February 22nd of 74, County Sheriff Thor Fladwed stated, "We've never been able to establish any basis that there was any satanic cult," according to Fladwed. This was the first time rumors surfaced about a devil cult in Rathdrum, aside from the odd and old rumors that the two events Rathdrum citizens into believing devil worship cult exists. So, this is weird. So, October 31st, 1977, mentions the first event, cattle mutilations that appeared on Silt, S-Y-L-T-E, Silt Ranch in 1972. So apparently in 1972, there was a bunch of cattle that were skinned pieces missing from them, things like that we see all the time.
So during that time, I get it was the satanic panic, but one other thing is that I read a book that was about a true story. It was a true crime story of a young man who was kind of roped in by a girl he liked into joining some other kids, because they were teens, who were worshiping Satan.
Yep.
And what they would do is go out to cow fields and do sacrifices to cows. And apparently that was not so rare back then.
Yeah.
Like, that is one thing that they did, was kill cows and sacrifice them.
Yep, and do really weird things to them. And yeah, I gotcha.
So, it could have been some, like, kids being kids and doing dumb stuff.
But what's interesting, it could be, absolutely.
I mean, it's super messed up.
What's interesting is a lot of these rumors started in the late 1800s, early 1900s, all the way up. They got like a renewal in the 50s and 60s. Then you had that happen with the cattle in 72, where you had a whole bunch of cattle happen. Okay, And the second event was the disappearance of Ronald and Rita Markison. And this really changed things in this area. And this was 73. So you have the cattle in 72 and then this event in 73. And that's what we're going to be focusing on here for a little bit. So Ronald Markison, 22, and his wife Rita, 20, went missing on Monday, November 19th, 1973. They were last seen that night leaving a dental clinic in Hayden Lake where Rita worked as a dental assistant. The following Friday night, authorities found Markison's vehicle empty with shattered windows on Highway 53, about 4 miles from Rathdrum. Okay? All the windows broken out and nobody there.
That is weird.
The sheriff's office conducted searches through the wilderness surrounding Rathdrum, but the only evidence discovered in the month following Markison's disappearance was Rita's purse. Now, I have a really weird thing here, okay?
Okay.
So, on 2 different articles I found, it says that they found their bodies without the head.
Okay.
In this article, it doesn't say that, okay? And this article is from a more trusted source that I'm pulling some of these details from. But what's weird is in every article, they confirm their persons by finding the head and not the body. But it doesn't talk about this. So I'm led to believe that they really did find the bodies without the heads, because they found the heads decades later. So that's weird, right?
Yeah.
So
very weird.
If we follow the storyline of the bodies and the heads, is they would have found the bodies within this first week.
Okay.
But not their heads, meaning for whatever reason in the 70s they weren't able to confirm that they were them without that. So they found their car 4 miles outside Rathdrum, and they found their bodies. So the sheriff's office conducted searches throughout the wilderness surrounding Rathdrum, but the only evidence discovered was Rita's purse, later found by a farmer on the banks of Pend Oroville River on December 18th. Now, rumors about the Markisons falling into the clutches of the local devil-worshipping cult circulated in the winter months following their disappearance, of course. According to Spokane Chronicle article from February 22nd, 1974, stories described how the couple was killed in some bizarre manner, and later the discovery of the Markisons' bodies is being kept secret by the authorities for unknown reasons. So I really think they found the bodies, I'm telling you.
And not the heads.
And not the heads, yes.
That's pretty freaky.
It's super freaky. And during a satanic panic, 1 year or less right after the cows, okay, you have active people out here, whether the Satanism is real or not, whatever you believe, okay, the people that were acting these things out believed it was real. And that's what's important. And that's what we argue all the time, is like, people out there don't want to talk about tin hat or conspiracy topics, but the important thing is if the suspect believes these things and cares about them, then we should, regardless if it makes sense or not.
Yep.
It doesn't need to make sense. Crime doesn't make sense. Statistically, it doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So other stories told the couple's bodies being drained of blood in a satanic ritual that took place in some area outside Rathdrum, Coeur d'Alene, or Spokane. The circulating rumors, I wish I could find out if the bodies were drained of blood. That would be wild. So the circulating rumors traumatized the Markisons' friends and family, especially Ronald's mother, Mrs. Velma Markison, who took to local television in January to say that they weren't part of this cult. Like, got on television and said they weren't part of this cult. That's how serious people were taking this. So,
I bet.
Yeah. After months of searching for Ronald and Rita, in May of 74, a farmer found bits of clothing, hair, and pieces of bones scattered in a field. That's what they're claiming. I think that Could be because they got the bodies, you know.
Yeah.
Authorities identified the remains as Rita's approximately 5 months later on October 5th. Bear hunters found a skull. Dental records identified it as Rita's. In November of 1973, George E. Stroish from Post Falls, a suspect in the Markison disappearance, pleaded innocent to grand larceny for stealing Markison's cars. Now, this is interesting. This guy, Stroish, George E. Stroish, was in jail, and his cellmate claims that he was bragging about doing these murders. I couldn't find anything saying anywhere a statement saying that, which is interesting, right? If you're part of law enforcement in this area and you have a crazy satanic panic going on and no information is going to bring these two back, right? And you have no leads, you don't know what to do. Does it make sense to like nudge that along to stop this, to stop people from leaving your town, to make people like calm down, you know?
Yeah, I think so.
I agree too. I think it's really possible. So after 22 years, and he never got charged for it, okay? So that's another interesting thing. They claim they had an eyewitness saying that he did this, that he made a statement to his cellmate. His cellmate ratted on him is what they're saying. But he never was charged. So, okay, interesting, right? After 22 years, investigators finally solved the Markison's mystery. On October 25th, 1995, a man found Ronald Markison's skull. Again, they found Rita's skull, and then they found Markison's skull. Skull, no bodies.
In the same area?
Nope, they were miles apart from each other, but again, no bodies. Like, that adds weight to the fact the heads were taken off.
Yeah, obviously.
And I don't think that it's just Stroish who was some criminal who, like, multiple people were there if they're taking off heads and things like that. You know what I mean? So...
yeah. And there's multiple... oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
In different areas. Like, there's a lot going on here. It would be a lot for one person, is what I'm saying. So, but anyways, they found his skull, okay? And it was how many miles apart here? Let me see. So, satanic cult. So Rathdrum during the 1970s, facts supporting the existence of a satanic cult that terrorized the town have yet to be found. In an article previously mentioned from the Spokesman Review, October 31st, 1997, a North Idaho college student mentioned a supposed prison interview with Charlie Manson, where he stated he wanted to move to the town because it had the largest concentration of witches and devil worshippers in the country. Supposedly Charlie Manson said this about Coeur d'Alene or Rathdrum. Weird, right?
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I know. It is crazy. Yeah, but...
very strange.
So his skull was found 4 miles away from hers, though. And they don't have any suspects.
Pretty good distance.
Yeah, they don't have any suspects. They're saying it's this guy. This guy never says it's him. He ends up passing and whatever. They never find a real suspect and really charge them. But this couple, this normal, regular couple, she was a dental assistant, somehow got picked up while they were driving home on this highway. All their windows busted out in their car. They go missing. Their heads taken off, okay? And... put out in the wilderness in random spots.
Very strange, man.
And then there's these rumors under the town's breath of the bodies being drained of their blood, like strange stuff here, okay? Really strange stuff. One interesting thing is there was no damages on her head. They believe that she was suffocated, but he had 2 holes in his head they believe were bullets. So
they believe were bullets. They don't know.
I mean, no. The skull had been out there for like 30
right.
years or something crazy like that.
You're right, but you think there would be a bullet? Like, metal is as better than bone as far as deterioration.
Yeah, but the head was gone. Like, gone.
I guess
it could be one shot to an exit.
You're right. It could be.
So it says from the mystery of the Markinson's disappearance took more than 2 decades to solve. However, the rumors connecting the couple's disappearance to a devil-worshipping cult never subsided. While there is evidence to support murder in Rathdrum during the 70s, facts supporting the existence of a satanic cult that terrorized the town have yet to be found. But yeah, interesting. So from its origins of a bustling railroad transfer station in 1881 to a disrupted town experiencing the weight of a satanic cult and double murder in 1973, Rathdrum exemplifies the multifaceted history of Idaho's small towns that are often influenced by folklore, places where violent crimes stand out more because they generally lack levels of violence experienced in larger towns and cities. Yet it remains clear that human beings in general often use exaggerated rumors to help make sense of the very real tragedies that threaten them. Okay, so I have a little bit more I gotta give here. So,
okay,
I went into this, right, and I'm always trying to like figure things out. That's just how my brain works, and I'm always questioning things and doubting statements, things like that. So, I went and started looking into. I was like, okay, well that's weird. Are there any other crimes? Whatever. Yeah. There's multiple other weird crimes that are very similar in this fashion. So I was like...
Wait, similar to this?
Kind of, yeah, with bodies being found randomly on the side of the road, the weird parts missing, things like that. So you have, in September of 1980, Chris Jennings was just typical teen, found no suspects. You have Kootenai County Sheriff's deputies responding the morning of November 26, having discovered multiple remains by the sheriff's office. So as I'm looking this up, I'm like, okay, that's super weird. Then let's look at how many missing people there are per capita, okay? Mm-hmm. Idaho is almost double the national average for missing people. Yeah.
Oh, Brendan, that's really scary.
Idaho's average rate of missing persons is about 10.59 per 100,000 people. So if you're listening to this, like, I want you to doubt me, okay? So the Idaho average rate of missing persons is about 10.59 per 100,000 persons. The third highest, only after Alaska, which is 40 missing people because of where it's at. You know what I mean? It's 40 missing per 100,000. Okay. Because if you get caught outside...
The environmental factors are way different.
Yeah, you're done. You're toast. Like, you can't be outside for 15 minutes sometimes,
Well, maybe not even like 5 in some occasions.
Depending on what you're wearing, yeah. And then Arizona, which is a crime hotbed and multiple different reasons why out there. But even Arizona is only like 11.59, so one extra person. But the national average is roughly 6.47. Is that not crazy, you guys?
Could it be because of Arizona being a crime hotbed and it traveling straight up through Vegas up to Idaho? Like, that's a route? That's a route? And I believe it is, according to the maps we've seen, that's a route.
I hear you, but that doesn't change the fact that it's strange. Because crime is not like, yeah, let's go to Canada. No way. There's no...
I'm talking about distribution of things.
Yeah, to go where?
Just up throughout that area of the United States. Washington, Idaho, Oregon.
The U.S. are the users, okay? And there's some main hubs. And they come in through the ocean. They're going to come into the ports of Washington. Or they're going to come up from, Ensenada to to San Diego to whatever up through there, or it's going to come into the port of LA and Long Beach into Arizona. That's just a very weird place to go up through Idaho. It doesn't make sense. There is not another big city up there. Seattle's
Spokane.
on the that's not a big city.
You're right. It's not like Seattle.
So Seattle's on the water. There isn't another one. It doesn't make sense. It is not a hotbed. It's not like traveling from Texas to Chicago.
I get what you're saying, but Canada has a lot of issues with their own drugs.
Not like U.S. So again, I'm telling you, statistically, it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Statistically, it would come in through the port, not driving through one of the hottest areas in the entire world, which is the U.S., to get to Canada, which isn't as much of drug users as the U.S. The U.S. is, no one else compares to the drug use we use. Nobody in the entire world.
Yeah.
So you're going to risk to get to Canada going through the hottest place in the world?
I mean, yeah, you're right. Using a boat, using ports makes more sense, for sure.
Right. I don't think so. If that were true, you would have California up there, New Mexico up there, Nevada up there. It would follow all those states. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It is Arizona. And if you guys know Arizona, there are multiple clashing drug entity organizations there. I think that's why you have so many missing people.
For sure.
Vegas, mobs, things like that. You know what I mean? But like on the way there, it's a major hub. But it just doesn't make sense to include Idaho. It does not make sense, man.
Okay. Well, I mean, it is really strange. Like, I kind of can't believe that, and it actually makes more sense to me now why they have their missing people project that they do.
I know.
Because clearly they have a major
Spot crime.
issue.
Yep.
And I've lived in a ton of small towns, across multiple states in the United States.
This is just Rathdrum.
And I would not describe those small towns as running off of superstition.
Look.
But, like, it's weird for me that a small town like Rathdrum, and, like, they kind of said all small towns in Idaho, like, ran off of, like, that superstition. And what did they say? It was superstition and something else. You said it earlier that Idaho small towns run off of these things, like, these ideas. Like, they have a lot of superstitions and stuff, like not driving at night.
What, just influenced by folklore?
Yes. I would not say any other small town I've lived in America, I wouldn't say they base anything off of that. Folklore and superstition.
I mean, that's where those things are known to come from. That's where they get that idea. You have the South with Southern Baptist locations and small towns that have more churches than they do, street lights. You have small towns that have more churches than they do Starbucks. Anywhere there's a church, especially a Southern Baptist church, there's going to be folklore and these ideas
You're talking
of
about
Satan.
the South.
And Satan is okay, but Idaho is very similar. It's a very, very similar demographic, living next to Washington with a really tight drug legal system and a ton of churches. So that's why I'm making that comparison, because people watching do know what I'm talking about, and they know that anywhere there's a bunch of churches like that, there is going to be folklore, there is going to be satanic panic, and there is going to be exactly what this is talking about. So I think it's fitting in Idaho.
Okay. It may be fit. That's what I'm saying, though. It's fitting for Idaho, but not everywhere else, and I think that's weird.
Yeah. Maybe.
That's kind of my point. That just because it's a small town doesn't mean that that's like the norm, that it runs off of folklore and superstition, because I don't think that's the norm. However, if you go to certain small towns in certain areas of America, like the South or apparently Idaho, then yeah, you're going to run into stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe. I just know that small towns get a bad rap, and they should. Small towns tend to have really ineffective police stations and police forces. Not all. So if you're in a small town and you're tied to law enforcement, I am not saying all. But statistically, the most problematic police stations and forces are in small towns. You pair that with an overabundance of churchgoers and religion. I mean, that is a melting pot for this crazy, gossipy telephone town police.
Yeah, the churches
thing.
are what matter. You're right. You're
So,
right. I think that's what matters.
It's wild. It's just crazy, and this insanely high average of missing persons. That's almost double the national average. Like, whew. Someone explain that for me.
Yeah, it's weird.
But yeah, let me know what you guys think.